Hello and welcome to the video. Let's talk about a businessman who operated in one of the most profitable sectors in American history. You might think of Al Capone as just a gangster, but he was more than that. The sector Al Capone operated in was created not by free market competition, but by government policy. Prohibition eliminated legal competition, not only banning alcohol, but also creating a market. This market corrupted cities and made petty criminals ultra-rich. When the 18th Amendment banned the sale and production of alcohol in 1920, the U.S. government presented this ban as a moral sanction. They said alcohol was the source of poverty, crime, and domestic strife. The demand for alcohol didn't disappear overnight. On the contrary, it increased in many places. Capone knew that where there was no legal supply, if there was demand, the price would rise. Capone built his empire in that gap between legality and reality. Here's when and where Al Capone was born. He was born in 1899 in Brooklyn to a poor Italian immigrant family. As he grew up, he gravitated towards crime. He entered organized crime in his 20s. Chicago was the center of the economic revolution. Alcohol wasn't just seen as a pleasure. It was like oil. Capone, with his connections and organizational skills, was perfectly positioned to dominate it. His operations weren't just a sprawling gang selling liquor in back alleys. They were the kind of business a higher-ranking strategist would be proud of. He controlled import routes and breweries, supplying products to unknown hidden bars, typically nightclubs and soda shops. Let's calculate how much money Capone made. In 1920s money, that's $150 million a year. That's $2 billion today. Capone invested in restaurants and nightclubs. He wasn't just making money, he was laundering it. The liquor was bootleg, and the profits were illegal. This was covered by a certain amount of money providing protection from law enforcement. Capone was seen in Chicago as a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, and a hero. Okay, fine, but the key to this man's success wasn't just violence. So what was it? The business he ran involved risk. He made huge profits because the products were illegal. Prohibition was an opportunity, but also a weakness. Capone diversified his business, turning to other illegal activities like prostitution and gambling. The reason was that if the product he sold, alcohol, were legalized one day, his profit margins would disappear. Beer, alcohol, whiskey, these were low-margin products before Prohibition. In other words, they were cheap. When Prohibition came, prices increased because each risk and supply significantly raised costs. Alcohol had become part of social life and culture. Prices rose dramatically, yet consumers still paid. These prohibitions eventually created an ecosystem of poverty. Millions and billions of dollars a year didn't just go to gangsters. They flowed to judges, police, and federal agents. When the legal system becomes dependent on illegal money, enforcement becomes tied to prices, not law. By the end of the 1920s, Chicago politics and organized crime had become two sides of the same coin. Different rival groups fought for distribution. The infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929 was a symbol of this. The visible face was violence. The underlying cause was finance. But we forgot something. Power built on politics collapses through politics. Public opinion changed in the 1930s. Taxing legal alcohol was more appealing than moral. For hate, however, power built on politics is destroyed by politics. Public opinion changed in the early 1930s. They couldn't convict him of bootlegging, but they caught him for tax evasion. In 1931, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison for tax evasion. In 1933, Prohibition was lifted. Production resumed legally. The market that made Capone rich disappeared in just one day. Prices returned to normal, production resumed legally, so demand didn't care about the law. Supply adapted, and the profit was too big to suppress. Look at the crypto market. It was in a gray area for years. Early entrants made a lot. As regulation comes, margins tighten. Capone's real story isn't about crime. It's about the intersection of money and opportunity. He saw the structural inefficiencies in a deliberately restricted market and took advantage of them. If I were teaching a modern finance course, I would say this: scarcity creates new opportunities. Whether artificial or natural, it changes the margin and the price. If you like this video, subscribe. Learn about finance. You're in the right place. Don't miss the new videos coming soon.